Is the former leader of the Conservative Party, Sir Iain Duncan Smith MP. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Sir Iain. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well.
Wonderful. We've got you. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed for
Good,
joining us
good,
this
good.
morning. Lots to talk about. Let's talk all the good news first of all. Cases down 7 days in a row. They've halved in a week. Yes, we're still seeing hospitalisations and deaths creeping up, but of course there is that time lag. Even the likes of Mr. Doom and Gloom himself, Professor Neil Ferguson, saying that vaccines had fundamentally changed the pandemic. Just 10 days ago, he was predicting 100,000 cases a day, even 200,000 cases a day. Now he's saying by September, October, we'll have put the bulk of the pandemic behind us. Is there lots to be happy about?
Well, I must say I've always believed, as you know, because I've come on this program before, that the vaccines have actually changed the nature and relationship with hospitalisation. We've known all the figures for that, and we've known that therefore it's much lower in hospitalisations and deaths much lower than we would have seen at this stage in any infection rate like we had. And the second thing is that I'd never believed that the infection rate would rise anywhere near in line with Professor Ferguson's. He's rather like one of those reverse bellwethers. The moment he points in a direction, I'm certain we're going in the other. And
Well,
that's
now
happened
that makes
every
me a little
single
bit
time.
worried. We're now going to have massive sky-high cases because he thinks things are going better.
Yeah, well, there's always the bandwagon to climb back onto in their case. I do think there's been a group of scientists who just simply spend their time, rather like a poker game, seeing each other and calling it and calling it and calling it till they up and up and up their predictions. Not one prediction, by the way, has been right by the scientists since they came in. They've all been up to nearly double and sometimes 3 and 4 times the kind of rates of infections and deaths. So yes, of course, and it's because most of the infection rate was amongst those who have not been vaccinated, such as those in their 20s and some in their late teens. And of course, after a while, that compounds itself to giving them immunity, as well as the fact that they're getting vaccinated at a faster and faster rate. So it's all very good news, and it's time that we said to people, don't have to self-isolate if you've had 2 jabs. Full stop. Get tests by all means, but don't self-isolate.
Well, indeed, I have no issue at all with, I got notified by Test and Trace last Friday and told I'd been in contact with somebody we worked it back, it was on the plane back from holiday, and you need to get yourself tested and you need to self-isolate. I can completely understand the need to get that test, and all credit, we sent off for our tests on Friday afternoon, Saturday morning they arrived, we sent them off Saturday afternoon, got the results back Sunday morning, that was really efficient. Could have been back at work on Monday. I'm negative. I don't have COVID. I've done 2 negative COVID tests, don't have COVID still, and yet still legally required to isolate until midnight. It does seem insane. And of course, it's affecting huge numbers of businesses. And of course, again, we've got the same issue, the announcement that we're expecting later today after a government meeting today about quarantining. That England, it may well be the other UK countries go ahead as well, but England's set to reopen borders as early as next week to travellers from the EU and travellers from the US who arrive who have been jabbed with, not through the NHS, but jabbed in their own countries with, by the way, the same jabs that we also are using, exactly the same, the Pfizer's, the AstraZeneca's, Moderna's and the like. Why has this taken so long? The EU has recognised our COVID pass for most of this month. The US has recognised the EU's. They've been opening up travel. Why has it taken so long for our government to get on the bandwagon on that?
I think part of it may well turn out to be, and there was a very good piece the other day I read, written about how there's a sort of group of scientists that, a part of SAGE, spend their time discussing what the collective line is, and then go out and privately tell everybody that it's all doom and gloom and disaster and terrible. And they've been frightening a lot of people now, and I think
Including many
unnecessarily.
cabinet ministers.
Well, you absolutely may be right on that. The trouble is, we've not had a consistency. We've had a constant inconsistency of forecast and predictions and a sense of where we are. Now, we know if the government is thinking of allowing those who are coming in with 2 jabs not to self-isolate, then this makes it doubly strong as a reason why we should now be saying internally to UK citizens, actually, you don't need to self-isolate if you've had 2 jabs. We shouldn't be waiting till the 16th of August. This is costing us a lot of money in terms of business, in terms of the problems you've seen and delivery and everything else, where people are getting sent home and those businesses can't run, particularly the small and medium businesses who can't afford to see staff off.
Yeah.
So we need to accelerate that and show some common sense, I think, in the government.
What do you make of sort of almost the disappointment in some quarters of advisors on Sage and independent Sage? Again, a totally self-appointed body, not independent at all, very much have a political agenda, and which most media organisations don't make clear. And many in the media who seem to be, I mean, almost downcast at the fact that the cases have halved in the last week. This willingness to believe every rise in cases as an absolute disaster. But the moment the cases go up, immediately we must go back into lockdown, have more measures. But if cases go down consistently, this unwillingness to believe the cases. These all the predictions, the doom and gloom, have been based on forecasts, modelling done by Imperial College, Bristol, Warwick, and other universities. We are still, in terms of our case rate, we are still below the best case scenarios that they had. There were predictions. There were worst case scenarios, most middle scenario, and best case scenario. We are still below that, and yet there seems to be this. In the last few weeks, an incredible wobble about, but cases are going up, even though cases going up was predicted to have happened. And cases coming down surely would have been predictable. If you look at things like, the Euros, well, yeah, people were going to be mixing in pubs and homes, and then they were going to stop doing that. School holidays, we knew when they were going to start. The vaccine rollout, we knew roughly how many people were getting vaccines over that period of time. We knew it was the summer, and July was likely to have warm weather and people be outdoors, fewer cases. We also knew that with more people being freed from their homes as a result of the changes, May the 17th onwards, that more people would start getting pinged. And be self-isolating. So all of these factors which were told, that's why our predictions were wrong. But those are the things that should have been factored into that modelling. If those things aren't factored into the modelling, what's the point of any of the modelling and the predictions at all?
The honest truth is most of the modelling has been wrong. Honestly, that's the worst part about it. Is that most of the forecasting that's come, particularly I have to say, Imperial Colleges has been pretty bad, but there's been lots of others that haven't been particularly good. And my concern is we've had Sage there to quietly behind closed doors do what they can in terms of what they think might happen, a range of options, and then advise government, and then government makes decisions. What we've had, however, added to that is these same individuals, not all of them, but some key individuals, going on the radio immediately, basically changing their own public mind. So they say, well, look, that was Sage, but my private view is a lot worse. Mm. And so what we've had is this kind of counterbalance that's been taking place throughout the pandemic, which makes it very difficult, I think, and I'm not trying to excuse politicians having to make decisions, but it makes it very difficult for them when the whole idea of this is that it's a doom and gloom scenario. And and that means also, by the way, that nobody remembers the person that said, it's terrible, it's going to get worse, and they're wrong. They're all frightened now that everyone's going to remember the person that says, we're okay now, we can unlock.
There's no cost.
It's all your fault, it's all your fault.
There's no cost to the doom mongering. You can predict, Godzilla rising from the sea tomorrow, but there'll be no cost when he doesn't.
Yeah.
What do you make of Michael Gove and what he had to say yesterday? He's the Cabinet Office Minister, and again, I keep trying to explain to people, he is the person making most of the decisions. He chairs the Cabinet O Committee most of the time. He is the one pushing for a lot of the lockdown measures and to stop lockdown measures unlocking. He said yesterday it was a selfish act not to have the vaccine if you were, for health reasons, able to have it. Some people, of course, unable to have it. He said it was selfish, and basically, if you then couldn't go and access going to a concert or doing whatever it was because you didn't have a vaccine passport, it was your own fault. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think there is a certain string of people just deciding that they're invulnerable and nothing ever happens to them, and therefore they don't want to take it.
Well, more for them.
But my answer to that is always, look, the best way of getting this done is through persuasion. And the latest infection rates, when they went up, I think were a big persuader for people, particularly younger people, to take the vaccine who had not thought about it before, suddenly realizing they're catching it or their friends have caught it, and then it sort of reminds them, they've got other things to do, I might go and do it. Most of them actually were just putting it off and thinking I'll do it at some other point. When you're in your 20s, life is moving so fast for you, you don't really think too much about.
No, these people aren't necessarily refuseniks. They're just people who haven't got around to it. But what do you make of a man who flew to Portugal for a Champions League match, final and flew back and got pinged. He, like me, he was required legally to self-isolate for 10 days, having been in contact with someone who tested positive. But he was able to use as we at the time, a completely unheard of new scheme, pilot scheme, to enable him just to be tested every day. I mean, that's pretty selfish, isn't it?
Well, I said people make their decisions, and that's why I think it's always good, generally, not to lecture people. It's far better to persuade people. I know, looking at the figures in my area, we have areas that have been very low compared to the rest on taking vaccines. And some of my medics have been brilliant in getting out there in buses and trying to persuade people. And they all say to me, all the doctors say, far better to get alongside people, deal with their worries and concerns, explain to them in their communities why this works, why it doesn't do what they think or cause them to be sterile or anything else.
Yeah.
It's not a conspiracy. These are the things, believe it or not, that get people to take the vaccine much more than wagging the finger at them. People don't always respond to lectures, but they do respond more often than not, I find, when you're able to explain stuff calmly and give them a sense that actually what they're doing is helping themselves, but also helping those around them. People prefer to help people rather than to be told that you are a so-and-so for not taking it. So my general sense is always best to get alongside people and persuade them rather than constantly wag the finger at them.
Sir Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Very much appreciate that. Quick